We're live.
All right, thank you. I call this hearing of the Archaeological Review Committee of August 5th, 2021 to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Chair Eck,
Present.
Member Ivy,
Is excused.
Member Pierce,
Present.
Member Wand,
Present.
Member Zinn.
Here.
We have a quorum, Chair Eck.
Thank you. I believe you indicated that you had an agenda change that you wish to speak of.
Yes, can we please move item G, administrative matters and communications, to where item C currently is?
All right, I certainly have no objection. You need a motion and a vote.
I move to make that correction or change to the agenda. Second that.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Member Pierce,
Aye.
Member Wands,
Aye.
Member Zinn.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you. We have an approved amended agenda. We now move to administrative matters and communications.
Okay, Chair Eck and members of the committee, we hired an HPD manager, and she is now, she started this week on Monday. So she's learning about all kinds of things this week. Her name is Carly Picarello, and I can let her introduce herself so you all can meet her. And she'll be here this week and part of next week. Then we'll be on a planned family vacation, and we'll take the helm fully in September. And then the plan has been to move to live meetings starting in September. But given the spread of the variant, we're kind of uncertain about what's happening. So I'll keep you posted on that. So you may see me again. I'll still be kind of in the wings helping a little bit. And if you would like, I know that Member Pierce had said that he prefers the time of 4:30 p.m., that it's a little bit easier. I'm not sure why you all moved to the 3:30 time, but we can move the time if that's necessary and preferred. And I think that those are all of my announcements. And I'll let Carly introduce herself. Oh,
hello. Thank you, Nicole. Hello. Thank you, Chair Eck, board. I'm very excited to be here. I come to this position by way of historic preservation background with National Park Service, compliance background working with Meow Wolf, and a design background with both Meow Wolf and the landscape architecture work privately. So I can go into more detail. We can get to know each other better, but I don't want to take up too much of the board's time. I'm happy to meet you all.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I do have one additional item, which is that we have Julie Kenny here from the city attorney's office, and she will be swearing people in. We do have an admin person that's working on getting her notary public, and will in the future, probably starting October, do the swearing in and this clerking that I'm doing here on PrimGov. So.
Thank you, Nicole. That was going to be my first question. Who is this? All right. In a grand view of the agenda, the next item is approval of minutes of June 3rd, 2021. Anything to add to that, Nicole?
I do, Chair Eck, we're I should say, not we're, I am still trying to figure out properly recording things, and I'm a little bit backlogged, so there were no minutes included in the packet, although there were last time, but they still have not been corrected due to my deficiency in learning this part of the program. So those will be provided in full for the September hearing, this meeting included.
All right, thank you. And I guess we don't need to consider the minutes. Moving on to matters from the floor. Is there anyone out there raising a digital hand to be recognized on the floor?
I don't see any hands raised.
All right, then let's move on to old business. The 3 cases moved over from the last attempt at a meeting. We begin with case number 20213866. Historic Downtown Archaeological Review District. Ron Winters, agent for Stephen Bailey, requests approval of an archaeological survey and testing report for a 0.155 acre lot on Delgado Street. We have a staff report. Thank you, Nicole. Anything about this that we need to change?
No, Chair, nothing to add or change.
All right, thank you. If we can empower Mr. Winters to be seen and heard, we then prevail upon him for additional things that we need to know about this before we consider the case. So once he's empowered, he will need to be sworn in.
Carly, do you need help with that? Let me know.
I have a Ron. Is that Mr.
That's Mr.
Winters?
Winters.
Yeah. He's now promoted to panelist.
Are we ready?
I think so. Can you
Okay.
see me or not?
We can hear you, but I cannot see you.
Okay. Now can you?
Yet,
What is going on here? Is that it?
there you
That's
are.
it.
Got it.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You?
Thank you. Can you please state your name and your address for the record?
Ron Winters, 109 Calle Paula, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
So I just want to warn you not to get too close because I have a summer cold, and I don't want to infect anybody. But that said, 213.5 Delgado is an area that I've worked in before. As you saw by the profiles, a lot of river rock and not many artifacts, in this project. Not a whole lot to say beyond that, but I did find a few historic artifacts. But again, the cobble concentration from the river were actually fairly high in the trench and hand units. That's it.
All right. Then, committee members, here is your opportunity. Member Pierce?
I'm just reviewing, but it doesn't look like I have any comments on this one.
All right.
Yeah, I can confirm. No comment.
Thank you, Derek. Member Zinn?
I think this was I might have been involved in the demolition of a house. Was there a house on here previously, Ron? I think you said that in your report.
Yes, but no evidence of it existed in terms of.
You did a good job tearing it down.
Yeah,
No, I don't have any questions. That was my only comment, Mr. Chair.
All right. Number ones,
Comment.
I believe I heard a no comment, but it was indistinct.
Correct.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's all right. I, as usual, have my morass of editorial oddities, which a couple of them might actually be more than just a passing interest. First of all, I realize that isolated artifacts are unexciting, but when we have 3 locations reported for isolates and that we have 4 items described, I think it begs a little more language than what is presented. I'm intuiting that we have 4 objects distributed across 3 spaces, 2 of which are of identical description and happen to be rather close to one another. Is that correct?
okay. What is the artifact you're describing, David?
Well, gee, this is all in page number order. And so your page 39,
Uh-huh.
which is packet part 2, page 3, for those keeping score. The second paragraph on that page speaks of 3 isolated occurrences. And when I count everything as described, it's 4. And I'm intuiting that the 2 fragments of whiteware were actually in the same general location.
Yes,
Okay,
from the same vessel. And I didn't
Excellent.
clarify that. Yeah.
excellent. And while you're at it in that paragraph, please, the first sentence says that 3 items consisted of 1 bottle base. That would be the first of the 3 that you're speaking of, but I think the whole paragraph could deserve a rewrite to make clear sense from beginning to end, one sentence after the other.
Okay.
And I raised that first because it's actually the first thing I noticed in the abstract. So going back to the beginning of this report, your page 10, packet page part 1, 11, the references for Folks 1975, Kelly 1980, and Maker et al. 1978 do not appear in your list of references cited.
Okay.
Similarly, your page 11, packet page part 1, 12, first paragraph, the reference to Post and CT Snow 1992 is missing from your references cited.
I don't know how I missed those.
Well, it's one of those editorial things that a good editor will rescue you from.
I only had one.
Your page 22, packet page part 1, 23, first paragraph, the reference to Say and Spears 1988 is missing from the list of references cited. Your page 28, packet page part 1, 29 is a table. Table 1, the first line of said table refers to Lang 1980. From interpretation of the title given, I believe you're referring to what is presented in your references cited as Lang 1980B. So that could benefit from a change.
Okay.
Back to your page 39, packet part 2, page 3. The survey and testing results. I realize that you described the sediments on your profile drawings, but I think your discussion here could benefit greatly from including description of those sediments and sort of the whys and the wherefores of the depths reported. You alluded to that in your opening statement. It would help here for the reader to be able to understand. Although I will point out that the photographs of the trenches make it look like an unholy mess trying to keep trench walls from falling in because of all the cobbles.
That was the case.
Okay, your page 45, packet part 2, page 9. Summary and recommendations. The first and third paragraphs contain references to an activity that you did not do. We were not monitoring, you were making test excavations, and that's what the text should say.
Got it.
And that is all.
Okay. I got it. All of those noted.
Well, so editorial things aside, we can move to a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve case 3866, 213.5 Delgado Street with the stipulated corrections.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please. Oh, whoa, hold on. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this case, wave your digital hand and you can be recognized.
I don't see anybody.
All right, now we can have the roll call vote.
Okay, one moment, Chair Eck. This is the section that I have trouble with, and so I'm trying to get it to work. Let's see here. Okay, so for the moment, I will just proceed to record. We have a motion from Member Pierce and a second from Member Zinn.
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote. Member Wands,
Yes.
Member Zinn,
Yes.
and Member Pierce.
Aye.
Okay. And the motion passes and the application is approved with minor corrections.
That is correct. Okay, we will move to case number 2021-3867, Suburban and River and Trails Archaeological Review Districts. Ron Winters, agent for James Siebert, requests approval of an archaeological survey and inventory report for a 6-acre lot on Airport Road. We have a staff report. Nicole, thank you for that. I will point out that the number on the staff report differs from the number in the agenda, and the number in the agenda is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I have nothing to add.
All right. Mr. Winters, you are still empowered and still under oath, so what do we need to know?
Not really anything. There are a few isolates. Of course, there's, been found in the vicinity, a few important sites, but that was not the case, in the property that I surveyed, just some isolates. That's about all there is to say.
All right. Any members? Member Wands?
No comment.
Thank you. Member Zinn?
My only comment is I appreciated the history of the Hams Brewing Company. That was great. And no other comment.
Dale, I had to make it interesting, you know, so.
That was my dad's favorite beer, so I perked up.
Having spent many an evening watching the Saturday night fights in company with my father and watching Ham's beer commercials, I can testify that the bear is intriguing.
He's
All right.
going charming now.
Member Pierce.
Ron, just one small editorial comment.
Okay.
On our packet page 4, which is the last page of the NIAF form,
Uh-huh.
in the survey results, I think you've got a copy and paste error, maybe reusing it, because it says one previously recorded site, and of course in this project there were none.
Right.
That's all I had, though.
All right. Thank you, Derek. I will proceed with my usual editorial mundanities. Your page 10, packet page 18. The reference to Fallon et al. 1978 is missing from your references cited. Your page 22, packet page 30. Fourth paragraph, fourth line. Camino de los Carros, an unwanted jota appeared instead of the L you intended.
Okay.
Your page 23, packet page 31, the partial paragraph at the top of the page. Your final statement, after discussing some of the known historic roads, you say there was no evidence of pre-1880 travel within the project area. I'm not convinced. We'll come back to this on a later page. Because on your page 24, packet page 32, last paragraph, you speak to the location of the Camino Real. And while you are 100% correct on referring to the main accepted, mapped and listed route of the Camino, there are others, including, I believe, the western extension of what is now known as Alameda, which was historically the road to Cerrillos for those who were north of the Santa Fe River. It's Camino del Norte, perhaps. If you are at Golondrinas and you were unfortunate to arrive perhaps late and there were no camping areas in the paraje there, your option was to either tough it out or to cross the arroyo there and go north on the eventually the west side of the Santa Fe River and stay at a little place that is a documented National Register Camino Real site. It's a small hacienda, minor paraje. And when you continue on that trajectory, you enter Agua Fria via this road, which is the road to Cochiti. Other things have been used to refer to it. And you would actually approach Agua Fria from the north side of the Santa Fe River. Just saying, you don't need to change anything per se, but I just want to let you know that there are other things out there. And
David,
I do believe that.
What page was that? What page number was that? I'm sorry, I missed it in the beginning.
Oh, is your page 24, packet page 32.
Okay, thank you.
Corollary to that, being fond of looking at aerial photos, I think I can actually see a dim trace of the extension of Alameda otherwise known as the road to Cochiti, otherwise, I believe, to be one of the earlier optional routes of the Camino for those north of the river, crossing the north end of the property in question. The other road that crosses your property, that is now an established paved track, is also possibly the link between Agua Fria and the Camino to the north, because the Camino went all the way to Okewinge, and it proceeded by at least 3 different trajectories from Golondrinas, one being via the west side of the Rio through the Camino Real site, which is that small paraje, and thence más o menos directly north toward the territory that fringes the higher ground to the west. The other way is to go essentially toward Agua Fria and cross the Rio, and then head northwest via this track. And then the final one would be to go all the way to what is now the low water crossing at Agua Fria Schoolhouse vicinity, Pindi Pueblo vicinity, cross the Rio there and head north toward Okewinge. Again, just a possibility, would possibly benefit from discussion. Finally, on page your 36, packet page 44, you and I share a tendency to use the Italian when we should be thinking in Spanish. The last paragraph refers to the cementario de la Agua Fria. En español es cementerio. Not a.
I think that, David, that I took from the gateway to the cemetery.
That's interesting. All the documentation I've seen has an E, not an A.
I'm trying to remember whether I included that photograph in there of the entrance, but it was, I'm almost positive I took that from their own spelling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the editor would suggest that one would put paren, SIC, close paren in there. Because yeah, that's what they said, if that's what they said, but it's not necessarily what they should have said.
Right.
So I'm done. We can consider a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask for approval of case 3867 ARC with the notation that further discussion of the maybe and wherefores of the roads going north and south can be considered in further discussion, if so wanted to.
Thank you. Yes, it's a suggestion more than a requirement.
And Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. If there's anyone who wishes to comment on this case from the outside, please raise your digital hand or otherwise signify. Hearing none, we may move
Right,
to roll
so
call vote.
Member Wands,
Aye.
Member Zinn,
Yes.
and Member Pierce.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
And carries. Thank you. Case number 2021-3868. Historic Downtown Archaeological Review District. Office of Archaeological Studies, Agent for High Five Networks, LLC, requests approval of an archaeological monitoring plan for 260 feet of fiber optic installation. We have your staff report. Nicole, anything to add to that?
Nothing to add, Tarek.
Thank you. Is someone here representing OAS for presentation?
I would be Eric Blinman. Do you see Carly?
I do. I'm promoting to panelist. Okay. Have a moment of patience here for me. He's no longer in my attendees.
I can see him on the screen, but no evidence of vision or sound.
I have asked to start video. And to unmute. We'll see if it works.
And
There we
there
go.
is the good doctor. You may have to unmute yourself on your end, Eric, just in case.
I have, I think, just tried.
You've done.
There we go. Karen sends her regrets that she could not be here today.
Thank you, Dr. Blinman. You will be sworn in now by Julie.
Okay, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Eric Blinman, Office of Archaeological Studies, 7 Old Cochiti Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87507.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Anything to add, Eric?
As usual, Karen has gone through her manuscript with a fine-tooth comb to try to defeat Chair X eagle eyes. We'll see if she's succeeded at all. So she has noted on our page 4 that in the last line of the first paragraph on the page that it should be the south side of the St. Francis Cathedral Basilica Church office building. And next, on our page 22, let's see, the next to the last line of the entry for NIMCRIS number 134251, it should be have been rather than have.
I'm sorry, Eric. What page was that?
It was page 22,
Ah,
our 22.
thank you.
Then our page 25, the last line of the page, she would like to insert after the word church at the south end of the project area.
All right.
Then our page 29, third line from the top, She would like the last part of the sentence to read, which was used temporarily during construction and finally demolished.
Can you read that again?
Yes. Right now it reads, which was used temporarily and finally demolished. She wants it to read, which was used temporarily during construction and finally demolished.
Thank you.
For page 31, second line from the top, she mistakenly has two closing parentheses, one of which should be eliminated. And per page 48, the last paragraph of the summary of map information section, the second sentence of that short paragraph, she would like it to read, the low wall that traces this path today largely reflects its historic configuration. And Karen would also like to express her thanks to Ron Winters for providing information on his work on NMCRIS 145986, the parish garden, which is the destination of this monitoring project.
All right. I only saw the parentheses.
Capital offense right there.
Yeah, she's keeping score, David.
Oh, she is so far ahead of me. I have no worries. All right. Committee members. Members in.
I have no comments. Good job.
Number one.
Excellent work.
I'm taking that to be a no comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, you couldn't hear me.
I can now.
Okay, no comment.
Okay. Member Pierce.
No comment, but Eric, thank you for clarifying Ron Winter's previous work. Somehow, when I read through the packet, I missed that and was grabbed with this feeling of deja vu that I couldn't explain because I couldn't remember the details of it.
Yes, we'll be coming at the garden from the opposite direction.
Got you. Thank you. But yeah, no comments other than that.
All right. I have nothing to add other than to observe that there's kind of a humorous entry on the very last page of the document. It's the entry in table A2 for NMCRIS 174, excuse me, LA number 174241. It's described as an Anglo dump. That matches most of the living quarters I've occupied doing archaeology over the years, and I wonder. We can have anyone who wishes to speak to this case from the outside raise their hand or otherwise signify.
I don't see any hands.
Okay, well, then we can move to the roll call vote, please.
Did we have a
A
motion?
motion? We don't have a motion. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the case 3868 be duly approved and with the archaeological studies self-amendments applied.
I'll second that.
Okay, now roll call. Thank you.
Member Wands?
Aye.
Member Zinn?
Yeah.
Member Pierce?
Aye.
And there is an approval. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to new business. Case number 2021-4005. Historic Downtown Archaeological Review District. Ron Winters, agent for the city of Santa Fe, requests approval of an archaeological monitoring and limited testing plan in advance of the construction of public restrooms on East Water Street. We have the staff report. Thank you for that. Nicole, anything to change or add?
No, Chair Eck, I do not have anything.
Thank you. Ron, it is your floor.
So I wanted to tell you, this was a rather quick turnaround, so I welcome any input you have on this project. And I also want to begin by thanking Eric for his assistance with this, including scaling the original drawing of the excavations done in '87 to get the number of square footage that they had excavated, which totaled approximately 5% of the project property. I want to refer to page 45. I mistakenly listed it as page 43 in the list of figures. This is figure 17, and that is the area that I'm going to be working in in the total project area. That's where this will all take place. Figures 3 through 12. I was highlighted, and it was very specific about where the ground disturbance will occur and where the archaeologists will monitor all of these subsurface excavations. In terms of hand units, in discussing this with Eric, we felt like it would be good to do some work in the area where they had the trash-filled underground fuel tank and whatever else, what other features might occur. And I didn't specifically show those areas. I would do that, as I said, when the asphalt was removed and the soil's exposed. And so I think that's it for right now. But you see that where we'll be working and where it stands in terms of the overall project area that was tested back in '87. So anyway, again, welcome your comments.
Thank you, Ron. Committee members. Member Pierce.
Okay, Ron, one general comment to start with, and I'm probably going to steal this from Member Wands, but in several places in your report, you reuse language from the earlier report from 1987, including copying verbatim, like almost entire paragraphs. And the only citation you provide is author and year. When you're duplicating that much text, you really should include a page number and set it off somehow with quotations or change in font, something like that.
Or inset.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Then I had one editorial correction. I think it was on page. Where did it go? Well, now I'm not finding it. It was just a duplicate. Here it is. It's I believe it's your page 43, packet page 44.
Okay.
One, two, third full paragraph. And the fourth line from the bottom, you'll see of the trench duplicated. Of the trench, of the trench.
Okay.
And then the only other question I had to do with, from the earlier report, it looks like the area you're now working on is where they expected the engine room to be. Is that, do I have that spatially correct?
Well, it was the spray pond in the cooling tower.
Uh-huh.
For the most part, yeah. The engine room is to the west.
Oh, okay. The reason I was asking about the engine room was that it's described as semi-subterranean, which means it could be, dug down into the, to a fair depth. And I was wondering what you were going to do with it if you encountered that.
Yeah, actually, Derek, if you look at figure 17, it only encompasses just to the edge of the blacksmith shop area. And that's a general location. Actually, in what's happening where they show current bathrooms, that's going to be demolished, but there's not going to be subsurface excavation there. So that's why the focus is going to be where the cooling tower and spray pond were.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you, Ron. I believe that's all I had.
Thank you, Derek. Number one,
I have no comment.
did he steal your thunder?
Well, you know.
Sorry, Courtney.
Good.
Numbers in.
No comments except for I really got into the previous work and the fight between Mr. Sena and the two owners, and which was quite well described. I enjoyed that, but I have no other comments.
Thank you, Dale. Couple of editorial things and then one suggestion / request.
Okay.
Editorial first. Your page 5, packet page 6, third paragraph, fifth line. The sentence now reads, the exterior of the will be stucco to complement the surrounding buildings. Exterior of the building will be stucco to complement the surrounding buildings, perhaps.
Got it.
Your page 25, packet page 26, first paragraph, third line. Citation for Zay and Spears, 1988 is missing from the references cited. Your page 26, packet page 27, second paragraph, fourth line from the bottom. Power plant began operating on the northeast corner of Don Gaspar and Water Streets. Doesn't it have to be the southeast corner?
Yes. Why, yes, it does.
All right. Your page 42, packet page 43. The second, well, yeah, the second real paragraph. That same sentence, the exterior of the blank will be stucco to complement.
I have to say, David, I didn't write that when I got it from the city, from John Dillon, but I definitely should have proofed his work.
Yes, well, you can send him a little editorial comment.
I'll let him know. I'll let him know.
My request / suggestion is that in your report of all this, when you're discussing the history of this piece of property,
Yes,
Sanborn maps will help tremendously to illustrate what it is you're talking about so that you don't have to use quite so many words to describe where in relation to what the next building might be.
got it.
Those Sanborns are wonderful. They're not 100% accurate, but they at least give you a good idea of generally where things are. And they provide a dandy illustration that you can draw things on, much like we saw in the earlier presentation from OAS regards to fiber optic installation.
Got it.
Great context.
Sure.
Good suggestion.
Chair Eck, and just for reference, all of the Sanborn maps for Santa Fe are now online via the Library of Congress. A lot easier to access than trying to go to the city now and find them or anything. So.
Yeah,
That's good to know.
just be prepared to use up lots of memory if you download things at a decent resolution.
Oh, yeah, true.
Because they're scanned at various levels, and the highest resolution gives you really big files.
Good to know.
That is all. Is anyone in attendance out there wishing to comment? Please raise your digital hand or otherwise signify.
I see no hands.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
Move for approval of case 4005 as amended or verbally corrected herein.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Member Wands,
Aye.
Member Zinn, and Member Pierce.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next, case number 2021-4006. River and Trails Archaeological Review District. Ron Winters, agent for HomeWise, requests approval of an archaeological survey and inventory report for a 2.01 acre study on West Alameda. Do we have your staff report, Nicole? Anything to change or add?
No, Chair Eck, nothing to add.
Ron, you are still with us, still under oath, and it's your floor. What do we need to know?
That the built environment here made a survey rather challenging. I mean, to find any open ground. The single artifact that I found was the bottle that could be dated, the bottle base outside of the developed area on the south there. But I don't know how they're going to do it, but they want to do infill. You saw in the photograph of the overview, there's not a lot of room, but that's what I'm seeing these days. A lot of, infill, whatever space is available, they're filling it up. I'm sorry. I was hoping to have Emily with me, but she's in the field out in Grants. But I, of course, was, led the survey on the project.
All right, thank you, Ron. Committee number one.
I only had 2 editorial comments. On page 14, I don't have a packet page, so it's just your page 14. You're missing the figure number. It just says architect. Can't hear anything, huh?
Not hearing you.
Some of it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Well, briefly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So On page 14, you're missing the figure number. It just says XXX. In the a U.S. General Land Survey map. Project areas located for XXX. And then on the, sorry, I'm still getting used to fully digital. It's harder to relocate. On the Appendix A title, new investigation abstract form, it's actually the NIMFRS investigation abstract form.
Those of you who could hear, could you restate perhaps? I can't hear.
I heard page 14, there's XXX rather than a figure number. And then that NIAF is incorrect. The acronym is spelled out incorrectly. So it's a NIMCRIS investigation activity form. Did I get it right?
I'm not understanding.
So NIAF is a NIMCRIS investigation activity form. Is that correct?
No, it's an abstract form.
Abstract form. Thank you. I always get that wrong too. And that's written incorrectly in the report, but I didn't get the page number.
The appendix text.
I didn't hear. Sorry.
I believe you might be referring to the cover sheet for the Appendix A, which is packet page or report page 27, wherein it says Appendix A, new investigation abstract form.
Yes.
All right. So, Ron, if you were intending to say NIMCRIS investigation abstract form, it's a small change.
Got it. Yes.
Anything else, Courtney?
No, nothing else. I'm sorry. Everything is falling apart on me.
We're living in a digital world, which is supposedly better than a analog world. Thank you, Courtney.
Yep.
Member Pierce.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Member Zinn, correct me if I misremembered, but did I call on you first?
Nope. But I'm glad to comment.
Okay, go for it.
No comment is what I have, but my condolences to Emily out in the field in Grants.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Report page 3, packet page 8, very last line. The details of the citation of Lentz et al. 1994 are missing from your list of references cited. We've already dealt with the figure reference. So the only other thing is packet page 37, which is the NIAF form, page 3, the block of text for environmental setting. Second paragraph, third line. The cardinal directions used are transposed. I believe you meant to say that it is at a location 6 miles west of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains and 6.5 miles east of the Caja del Rio Plateau.
Got it.
As it is, it's east of the sun and west of the moon, and Is that where Never Never Land is?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Es todo.
Okay.
Anybody out to make a comment from the peanut gallery, please raise your digital hand or otherwise signify.
I do not see hands.
All right. Motion, please.
Move for approval of case 4006 with the amended comments provided by members of the board.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Member Wands, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Member Pierce
Aye.
and members in.
Yeah.
And with that, the motion carries.
All right, thank you. Case number
Thank you, everyone.
2021-4007, Historic Downtown Archaeological Review District, Office of Archaeological Studies, Agent for PNM, requests approval of an archaeological monitoring plan for installation of 1,310 feet of power line. We've got a staff report. Thank you, Nicole. Anything to add or change?
Nothing to add to this.
All right. Dr. Blinman, we're still patiently waiting. You have the floor.
Carly, is he available?
Or it's taking a moment to move him over. It's a little slower. Okay.
All right. Thanks to the committee. Karen again expresses her regrets of not being able to present this in person. From my perspective, she was either in great form or she was slacking off, and I'm not, Chair Eck will tell us which. She has one correction she would like to have made on our page 42. The end of the first paragraph under monitoring expectations, we need to insert a period.
We got it. If that is all, we will proceed. Committee members in.
No comments, as usual. A very good report. I'm glad that mentions my alma mater, Carlos Gilbert Elementary.
All right. Member Wands.
Can't hear you.
No comment.
No comment. All right, Member Pierce.
No comment.
Okay, well, I didn't see the missing period. I think I was so tickled to have found on the previous page, page 41, back at page 45, the caption for figure 23, the last line of which bears a misspelling of Morales Road.
Got it?
And that is all. There's anyone out there who wishes to make comments on this case, they should signify by raising their digital hand or otherwise indicate.
I saw member Wands briefly raise her hand, but that might have been an accident. Okay.
All right, we can move to motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve case 4007 ARC for Rosario Boulevard and Morales Road. With their minor corrections.
Second that.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Member Wands? Yes, okay. Member Zinn
Yes.
and member Pierce.
Aye.
And with that, the motion passes.
Excellent. Thank you.
You all.
Item H on the agenda is matters from the committee. Committee members, or anything we need to consider, discuss?
Mr. Chairman, a while back, I brought up the subject of unmarked burials in the PERA parking lot, and we were gonna get some kind of a follow-up from the state on that. And then I've also been told that at the land office repaving project also turned up some burials, which I'd be interested in because I'm working on 129 east of Argus right now, which is right next door.
I'd be really interested in that too. No, there are no human remains encountered during parking lot renovations, which I can tell you went from not being heard of in advance to 90 miles an hour, and then immediately took a series of hard right turns because the equipment that was supposed to have devoured the existing pavement and created a suitable base course upon which to lay the new pavement broke down. Strike one. They brought in heavy equipment to rip out all the pavement. Heavy equipment sank in the mud. Strike two. They figure out they had to dig out between 18 inches and 2 feet of very unsuitable fill material because of high clay content and excessive shrink swell potential. It's more than potential, having seen an enormous front end loader sink about 3 feet in less than the time it takes to describe it. So, having yanked all that out, they've now replaced it all with crushed rock over membrane and a synthetic grid that will provide stability to the limits deemed appropriate for constructing a parking lot. They're almost ready to finish pouring concrete for various things. And once they've done that, they're going to pave it. In the course of all this, in between a few other jobs, yours truly was out there with camera and various containers. I snagged a sample of artifacts out of the general smear of trash and building debris that was virtually everywhere. And we encountered evidence of two things that you would describe as features. One was a metal tank of unknown function, unknown total dimension, but it was approximately 4 feet in diameter. And that particular one tried to swallow the front end loader. They had to hoist it out of there with its bucket and some assistance from a backhoe. It was not investigated further as being way too dangerous to get into because nobody knows where the bottom of it is. So they filled it back up almost immediately. All I have are a few pictures. The other feature was a dry laid brick cylindrical thing that I believe is a cesspit. It had a cribbed coarse brick dome with lime mortar holding all that together. The uppermost portions of it were destroyed long ago by parking lot construction. I've got a sample of the bricks, got a sample of the mortar, got a sample of the artifacts from within. Gross dimensions and boatloads of photographs. Elsewhere on the property, where there was supposed to have been like a total of 16 buildings over the years, zero indication, with two exceptions. One being two large cobble foundation alignments. Again, lime mortar. They're protruding into the property from the south edge, which is also where the terrace would have been and where the retaining wall is now. Any evidence of connection of that with anything has been obliterated by the construction of the retaining wall circa 1959, 1960, such that there's now a humongous concrete footing at the base of the retaining wall. It sticks out about irregularly between 6 and 10 feet. The stubs of these foundation alignments jut out from that a short distance, 10 or 12 feet at most. Once again, photographs, gross dimensions, that's it. At the easternmost edge of the property, similar foundations jutting out from underneath foundations for the existing retaining walls, the sort of decorative elements at the south edge of the entryway. And those were left in place because they didn't want to tear out all of that landscaping and didn't want to run afoul of the city and its perceived limits of authority regards where does the street start or end and where does an easement start or end and yada yada. So we didn't go any further. I've got all the Sanborns. I know where all the buildings are supposed to have been. I know where or what they were supposed to have been according to the Sanborns. I have about 4,000 pages of title documentation for the properties, because when the land office acquired this, it was 5 or 6 different lots. And so there's 5 or 6 different ownership histories. That'll all be real interesting. Just most interesting to me is the fact that only 20 years or so before this building was built, there was the completion of the Santa Fe River Park, which probably started 30 years before this building was built. Anyhow, in the course of acquiring property for that endeavor, the state acquired a lot that more or less equates to the rearmost portion of our existing parking lot, i.e. everything between our building and the property to the west. And that was the location of the state parks headquarters building. It was still there in 1960, and sharp eyes in some of the documentation we got today can actually see that in OAS background presentation for their cathedral project. Right in the corner of the picture, you can see the land office and you can see this building sitting behind it. Our property used to end about 5 feet outside the back door because that's where the state parks property began. In short order, we acquired the state parks property, leveled everything that was back there, and made a bigger parking lot. At about the same time, some genius passed up the opportunity to acquire the property next door to the west, which could have expanded the parking lot even more, but it never happened. And that's where I'm intuiting where you're now working, Dale?
Well, yes, that's that historic wall is 1940s wall that's right adjacent to the state land office now. It's a beautiful little garden, actually.
Yes, and
It's going to stay that way.
that wall has a personal attraction to me because some of Santa Fe's finest citizenry came along here one evening and pulled one of those wonderful rocks out of said wall, used it to bash the window on my pickup truck, and stole everything out of the inside of it. So, Merry Christmas. Somebody violated a historic structure and used it to commit a crime. So, I think that's several crimes and would escalate the penalty if anybody could ever catch the little rat. Suffice to say, I've got about 6 months worth of spare time, which doesn't exist, to try to pull together documentation of this property, its history, and the features that we've discovered, to put it all on a map and a report that somebody might find useful. And by golly, when it's all done, I'll share it with y'all.
Thank you, sir.
I believe Dr. Blindman has his hand up, and it might be in regard to the status of things in the PERA building or parking lot.
Yes, if you want to start peppering me with questions, some of them I may be able to answer.
Well,
Mostly we were just curious about what was going on because we were getting the mushroom treatment.
The solar carport project in the PERA parking lot sort of highlights the strengths and weaknesses of our system. The strengths are that sooner or later somebody calls the right person and things change. The weakness is that everybody is known through oral tradition that PERA parking lot is the St. Michael's Cemetery. When they were building the PERA building, they did no archaeological work relative to the cemetery until finally they got around to the storm drain. And during the construction of the storm drain in, the sort of the rogues gallery of the Laboratory of Anthropology of 1966 was enlisted in excavating approximately 30 caskets that were in the way of the storm drain. And LA was assigned but was misplotted, and no one has had the accidental fortune of discovering the misplotting, I guess, until now. So that when Steve Post was responding to human remains in a power line excavation, he assigned a new LA number, but didn't get the boundaries of it accurately defined. So, and then when the General Services Department approached the Historic Preservation Division for comment on the solar carport, they treated it solely as an architectural entity. And because the solar carport lacks walls, it doesn't qualify as a building, and therefore the requirement for consultation and his city historic ordinances do not apply. And the case was not referred strongly enough over to the archaeology side of HPD to ring all of the warning bells that they were about to auger piers through a historic cemetery, until it was in some senses too late, and we were called in to monitor and figure out how bad the situation was. And after they received our cost estimate range for mitigating the caskets that could be in the way of the pillars of the solar array, it was far cheaper to move the solar array someplace else. And so the project was halted. As a result of this, we actually did track down the 30 individuals. There were actually less than 30, but the individuals who were recovered in 1960, I think it was 66, they had been shipped to first the Arizona State Museum and then transshipped up to Arizona State University. They had never been accessioned at Arizona State University. And so when I was in Arizona on an ArcheoMag project, coincidentally at just the right time, we brought them all back. So the burials from that have been reunited. When our monitoring project is ended, we will have rectified the site boundaries and the confusion over the site numbers. The General Services Department recognizes that with the changing of generations, they really desperately need a history of many of their properties that have historic elements to them. And we're hopeful that they are going to approve a budget that includes contracting out to have a history of St. Michael's Cemetery produced as part of the project.
That would be the happy result.
Yes.
Nicole, my understanding of the ordinance, the H-board ordinance, is that anything above 32 inches or 36 inches can be considered a structure, because I've done quite a few unwalled structures that I've had to go through the H-board for.
And I think you're correct when the project is seen from the standpoint of the city. But when it's seen from the standpoint of the state, they go to the ordinance that was passed, or the statute that was passed, that required the state to consult with the city. And that's where they incorporated the definition of a building. And that's where the failure of sort of consultation comes head to head.
I believe that I think that's SB 272. It was passed a couple of years ago, and there's something similar in the in the city's ordinance in the historic code that talks about state-funded projects and coming before the H board for review and comment. However, we did reach out to the architect who kind of put us off, and then the project wasn't happening anymore. So
Wow.
For everybody's comment, I didn't realize that stirred up an hour-long conversation, but that was great.
Eric, faced with some number less than 30 of individuals from that 1966 collection, is there any chance of any records of anything from the cemetery that might allow you to identify next of kin?
I would say right now, I can't answer your question. The most extensive records that we have actually been provided to us by the doyen of dead people in Santa Fe, which is Alicia Abbott. And we're hoping that the history that gets written, which is committed to, will give us a better context. We have not, I think there's a real question about whether or not the General Services Department is going to feel it has deep enough pockets to go into the past and bring the documentation of the 1966 excavations up to sort of modern standards. We would love it. There's really tremendous potential there in the 19 boxes of remains that were returned from Arizona State University.
I was just thinking of any chance of repatriation, sending these people home somewhere.
No one has suggested that records exist that identify plots and connect plots with inhabitants.
Right.
And the most, my point of curiosity in the entire process is actually what a cemetery goes through when it has been deconsecrated, and what the chain of custody of written records is, if any, after that point.
Right. We're in the same boat.
Yeah.
It is alleged that there are no records, but people who keep records like to keep records. So I think they are somewhere. I think they're somewhere that might take a heck of a lot of elbow grease and leverage to get at. But we can all keep plugging away at it. Maybe there should be, for lack of anybody else interested, a state repository of those records.
Certainly, the minimum would be those records could be put on file with Derek.
Right.
Yeah. If they can be found, we can incorporate them. They may have some sensitivity issues, but it can be done.
You're all over the sensitivity issues because of 18 other reasons already, so this would just be another
Mhm.
straw. Although I would hesitate to overburden the camel.
That depends upon what you find, how much of a burden it would be, but I don't expect it to be too bad.
All right. Okay.
If there are no further questions, I will thank the body and disappear.
Bonnie, thank you.
We thank you. Any other matters from the committee? then we have item I on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move for adjourn.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Member Wands,
Aye.
Member Pierce,
Aye.
and Member Zen.
Yes, please.
And the motion to adjourn passes.
We are adjourned. Thank you all. You can cut us off from YouTube, and everyone have a good evening.